get started. It's my first time to Australia, so if you haven't guessed it, I'm not British. I'm American, so yeah, we like loud videos and we like loud noises and loud things, and everything's bigger in my country and everything. So it's a big honor to be in your country. As I said, my first time here, and I think of Australia as one of the world's leader, if not the leader, in our field, you know, in exercise science and conditioning and in sports medicine and all these types of things. So hopefully with the questions you ask me later on, or hopefully I can ask you some back, and maybe I can learn a little bit from this talk as well. So when asked to do it, tried to get, you know, kind of the list of attendees and who was going to be here and whatnot. But just real quick, how many S&C kind of fitness profession people we have? Sports medicine, physios. How about coaches? So mainly coaches. Executives, business, and a few of those as well. So the way I've designed it is we're going to have about 15-20 minutes just on a little bit of Arsenal's culture, a little bit of where I came from, and then I thought for you business folks, and maybe it's the last bit is not so interesting, but it's a little our return to play model. So that it was a presentation that I picked because it just gives an overview of kind of the performance continuum from, you know, in the very, very far left, somebody breaks their leg, and on the far right, they're scoring goals for Arsenal, and our continuum sits from there to there. So a return to play kind of really gives you a background of the way we try to model our department. So as the presenter said, I've been the head of performance for Arsenal for the last 3 seasons, going into our 4th. We have hired one of your own, Darren Burgess. I've known Darren before from speaking at conferences and things. He's our new director of high performance. So Darren's going to try to link all of us together, head of performance, head of analytics, head of psychology, head of medicine, and try to control and try to guide us and try to enhance us as we go. I'm going to talk mainly today on the performance side. So from the things that I look for as head of performance in the performance unit. So a little bit about me, as I still work with the German national team. I've been very, very fortunate and lucky to still continue on with them. I'm not there for the internationals, but I am with them and guiding them in tournaments. And that was you know, one of those things you go to school and you dream and all those things, and all of a sudden you're in a World Cup. And I'm a typical American kid. I stopped playing soccer when I was 12. We had to start with sorry everybody, but we had to do the man sports, you know, as they said in my country at that time. But I loved soccer growing up. But then I was your typical American football quarterback, basketball player, and everything. But the one thing that was common is the passion and love that I had for the athletic world and sports. I can name every NFL starter and everything. Thanks, Alex. From when I was a very, very little boy, and I knew that I wanted to work in sports. Obviously, I dreamt, and my goal was probably to be on the Lakers team. And I wanted to play for the LA Lakers if you really wanted my goal. But unfortunately, I was vertical challenged. I didn't quite get the height that, or the speed, or any of those things. I blame mom and dad for that, but that's all right. Because I had the drive, for sure. I had it, no. So I found my way into sports, and sports medicine is where I kind of started out. In America, we have athletic trainers, who is kind of the equivalent of physiotherapists, I believe, in Australia and in Europe. So by university, I'm a physio as well. And my first jobs were in physiotherapy with the U.S. Olympic Committee, at the training centers there. But for me, and when I transitioned more to the performance side, was from the prevention aspects. Our physios, or our athletic trainers in America, and this may have changed, this is 15, 20 years ago now. I've aged myself, 20 years ago now. They're very reactive. And for me, I'm just not that way. I just, you know, taping an ankle is not prevention. You know, it's prophylactic, and maybe can help somebody but hopefully we can look at athletes and train our athletes, and that would be the ultimate prevention. So I made the change and got my master's in biomechanics and exercise phys, and went to the performance side. At the end of my university career, I had a choice. I could go performance side, or I could go to medical school. So those are the kind of my 2 choices, because I was undergraduate medical degree. And I think still my family wishes I would have been a doctor. You're not a doctor, why not? I love sports. And when you make those choices, I don't know how it is in Australia, but in America, when you're choosing to be a doctor and you want to work in sports, orthopedic surgeon, makes sense. If you look at the orthopedic surgeons in America that actually work with doctors, I think it's less than 0.034% of them. They don't work in sports. They work with a lot of sports injuries, but they are not with teams and working with sports. So back then, I had offers to go to medical school or continue on the performance pathway, and probably like many, don't make that choice. They probably go to medical school, but I chose to follow what I love, and that's to be an athletic. So that's a little bit about me and my background in education, and kind of where I arrived at the LA Galaxy and met a young aspiring coach who was our technical director there named Jurgen Klinsmann. And a year later, or 2 years later, I think he was named head coach of Germany. And he actually sent his physiotherapist around the world at that time to, hey, I want the best in strength conditioning. They actually came down here to interview, looked at people. They went to Asia, they went to Europe, Africa a little bit, and then Oliver is a good friend of mine now, after 10 years working together, told Jurgen, he goes, I think the best you have is right here. So amazing compliment to get something like that said from somebody that doesn't know you and that has scoured the globe. So Jurgen invited us to continue working with Germany, and then, yeah, you guys all know, 2014 we won the World Cup in Brazil, and before the World Cup win, I had already signed to come to Arsenal. So that led me to where we are right now. Long story, really short. Studied some stuff, got some experience, met some really good people, and somehow found my way here. So in Sydney. So again, a great honor to be here. Please stop me at any time. And so hopefully you have a little bit about my background and kind of where I'm coming from here. So we'll crack on. So with our performance model at Arsenal, you look at many things. We kind of look at it from the old typical training. We look at it, what is training? You know, the things up on the slide, the movements and stamina and all these other things. But the main thing is movement. Is it endurance? Is it with the ball, without the ball? But there's a big element, of course, of training. We're a sports team. Other things that we look into is the mind a little bit. Again, we're all sports psychologists, I believe, in a way. That's kind of what we do, why we do what we do. And then overall health is another thing we lump in there and connect well with our medical team. And this is, more of a traditional performance model, kind of all of these things linked together from the movement side. I would only say that we try to have that continuum that I was talking about, but also looking at a massive component, of course, for the EPL season and for us is recovery and our nutrition components, which we'll dive into a little bit more later. Again, preparation, culture, ROA, all the things we want to do with Arsenal. Again, you guys probably know the club mottos as well as me, but respect, move forward, be together. So we always want to honor those values. Even yesterday, we had a team meeting, and nobody knew what the team meeting was about. So it's the whole coaching staff and all the players. And we get in, and Arsene has the flip chart, and he has the club values. And we've got players that have been there quite some time, and we have some new ones with us. And then we broke up into small mini group coaches, 4 groups, and we did a workshop really in the afternoon yesterday on our club values and what Arsenal means to us. And that's from the footballing standpoint as well as the cultural standpoint. So putting those standards together, and that all kind of culminates into our playing style, that culminates into a little bit of the free-flowing play that we have, but also just the willingness to be together and to push forward and to do things and to change really, and to embrace change. Again, I believe we're all sports psychologists. I gave, in our realm of the world, I believe we're all doctors, actually. And this is D period, R period, S period, or in the UK, full stop, R, full stop. I've learned that with my kids in school there, that full stops are periods for us Americans. And what that means is we're all doubt removal specialists. And that's something that I've kind of stumbled upon in my career, that we're just trying to take away doubt. Arsenal, And I think any team around the world, you just want to put your athletes on the pitch, on the field, to perform free. So, am I recovered? Well, let's remove that doubt. Let's make sure that we're monitoring. Let's make sure we're given enough time in between our games. Oh, I'm overtrained? No, let's make sure that when we have a high stimulus, that they have the recovery from the nutrition standpoint, from all the things we're doing. So let's go into those games full of no doubt from a physical side. Then from the technical side as well. Oh, I don't know how to play against a back three. Well, let's work on it. Let's watch video on it. Let's go to the pitch and work on it. Oh, yeah, but he's quick. He's got big moves. Okay, let's have individual work against a player of that caliber during the week. So let's try to check off those boxes. Let's try to foresee those boxes as doubt removal specialists. Check them off as we go. And more often than not, and we are blessed, we have talent. We are blessed with talent. We're probably going to have a great result. The games and the times that you go into things like that and you see doubt, or you have even more detrimental, we have introduced doubt. Those are the times that you generally see that you don't perform well. Athletes, I don't know how they are in Australia. I think you have a little bit mix of cultures here in the Aussie and in the league now. But in the Premier League, as you know, we have a big mix. And athletes from different realms, the way that we communicate with them and the way we have to try to get the removal of doubt across is really, really important. And if small things, athletes will hang on to small things because it gives them an excuse, right? It gives them an excuse in a high pressure, high stakes environment, because that's what we're in, right? Small margins, high pressure, high stakes. You introduce a little bit of doubt, it goes a long, long ways. It's kind of like the ripple in the bucket. And so we're trying to do our best from the psych component. But again, that goes into the physical realm, the tactical realm, and everywhere to remove that. So our players are going into games free from doubt. So then from the performance side, as I said, it's really important to look at how we're recovering. What is that? Is that immediately after games? Is that, of course, the best recovery, and I think all the sports scientists and all the S&C coaches in here, is the best preparation, right? The stimuluses that we place upon them will allow them to recover quicker after games. So when we go into that block of games, last season, I don't know, anybody follow the Premier League last year? If you get media down here, we had the worst season in the history of seasons of any team ever. Finished fifth. But if you follow the media, it was the worst ever of any team in the history of any sport. But we finished fifth. The last run in, because of our FA Cup final run, all of our games got pushed. So we had, I believe, 4 games in 10 days as a block. And some of those were away to Stoke City. Arsenal's worst records in the Premier League, well, I'll let you guess, but I gave you one. Amazingly enough, is away to Stoke City. It is an Achilles heel. It's our second worst record away in the league in history. Who knows that? When I got there, I said, this is rubbish. We'll roll Stoke. Down 3-0 inside 30 minutes. I was like, what the heck is going on here? But anybody guess probably who's the number one for Arsenal? Away, worst record? United, yeah. But United and Stoke. If it was United in Liverpool, it was United in Spurs, United, you kind of understand, but it's Stoke City. They own the second best record against us away from home in time. So we had Stoke. Southampton is up there. I don't know exactly where they are. Southampton away. Both of those games away. We had United at home in the run-in, and then Everton. And then we had Sunderland at home midweek after United. So we had those 4 games. And nothing was more important than getting those guys, again, going back to that doubt thing, doing everything we could from a training load standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, from all the tricks and the trade to changes. Because here's for coaches out there, it's one of the things that we noticed is, I think we went United, Sunderland, Stoke. And then the last game here against Everton was a week. Yeah, so that block there. When you look at that block, United's going to be tough. They're a tough opponent. Stoke away, one of your traditional worst. No, Southampton. Sorry, Southampton was away and then Stoke. Southampton, tough league game away, and Stoke. But if you looked at it, it's not only you, it's also relative, right? So we analyzed it a little bit from the standpoint that we play United on Saturday, we play Sunderland on Tuesday. Well, Sunderland also plays Saturday. So Sunderland is going to be in the same position as us. You know, they don't have an extra day rest, they don't have everything. Then Tuesday to Saturday, play Stoke. Stoke City now is the team that has the advantage. They have all week to prepare for you. So in talking with the manager and everything, we played virtually the same team in the first 2 games, and against Stoke, he made 5 changes. Because we had to go a little bit from the physical side, a little bit fresh. Because if we had played them again, relatively, you're going against a team that had a full week to prepare against you. And all of those types of decisions help to control down. Of course, players want to play in every single game, especially when it kind of gets in that realm. But I think at that point, they also understood that, yeah, a few changes here, freshen it up. And we got to win at Stoke. And we actually battered them. To be fair, they scored a handball goal. But yeah, so all those things go into getting it recovered and regenerated, and also from the mind. Going to touch a little bit just kind of on our nutrition strategies. Do we have any nutritionists here? Sports scientists that do nutrition? S&Cs that do nutrition? Coaches that also act as nutritionists? All coaches, raise your hand, because I know you do. Yeah, again, nutrition is one of those things. We're all nutritionists. I mean, everyone, in a way of the philosophy. So in the S&C world, if you're looking at recovery drinks after the training session and all these types of stuff, I may not be the nutritionist at Arsenal, but I have to remind them of those nutrition principles that we live by. Amazingly enough, in the world of sport and nutrition, I think nutrition in our field is probably the quickest moving thing. It changes. I mean, I'm old enough now, 20 years, I've seen I remember in college it was carbs only. Do you want to lose weight? Yeah, carbs only. No fat and protein, no, that'll pack it on you. It was it was carbs only. And then of course you go to the cycle of the Atkins diet, which is, okay, no carbs. Then you go into the zone, and but you've seen that how could nutrition, it's 20 years ago. How are they saying that? And then here, in sports medicine, even in the training world, there isn't that stark change, right? There isn't that, this was good 20 years ago, and now it's outlawed, Coconut oil. Oh my gosh, supposedly it's a miracle worker. I was told it was horrible because our movie theaters used it to pop their popcorn. Back when I was growing up, oh yeah, you can't have that movie theater popcorn. It's bathed in coconut oil. Ooh, it's horrible for you. And then, so nutrition is one of those ones that is ever changing. We want to be on top of it. Just to give you a little story, is yesterday we had a group of players. We were in preseason. They're allowed to have fun in preseason or in off season, and they should eat and drink, and they should probably come back a bit heavy. But the ones that have come back a little bit more heavy maybe than we would like, they do training fasted. Now if I said that 5 years ago, I would get ran out of the room, probably. What are you doing? How can you train them like that? But yeah, that's how nutrition moves. Maybe 2 years ago actually. I can't believe you put athletes in deficit like that, and what are you doing? And that makes no sense. But that's where we're at. It's changed so much that some of those things we're now doing similar. We're going to make them train fasted so that when we do train full of glycogen or play, right, we'll trim some of the excess, but also they'll get used to extreme conditions. We're going to do it as well in China at 37 degrees and 80% humidity. So they're going to get a dose of that, and that's okay. So I think there's a few things up there, but I just wanted to touch a little bit on kind of the nutrition piece. And just putting it all together, we have the movement strategies, we have the sports psych, and sports psych from, hi there, how are you? That's 10%, right? You have 10%, that's the 10% of sports psych in a club. The 90% is the global change in how we communicate and how we do things. The big example is they got a great free kick specialist, right? No stupid fouls at the top of the box. No stupid fouls. No stupid fouls. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't give anything away. Yeah, first half, whack. And anyone here parents in here? Parents? How many parents? Be proud. I know. I have two. But I think parenting 101, which maybe parenting philosophy has changed faster than nutrition, but the latest is never tell your kid what not to do. Right? Always try to tell them what to do. So just that's an example of, we don't want to say that. We want to say, protect your area, be aggressive, tell them what to do. Yeah? Pay attention, but don't give away stupid fouls. Well, whack. I think that was one from Coutinho in our first game last year. And 1-0 was quickly 1-1. Yeah. So I think that the mindset and sports psychology, and then the last piece that we look at from our standpoint, from a culture, from the performance team, is just that recovery and nutrition piece. So I can pause it here if you guys have any questions kind of on the overall performance culture a little bit from Arsenal. And then we can jump in and talk about return to play. So, any questions?
So, as the one that's in charge of performance, would you often talk to the players about not fouling, or you should mark up on that guy a little bit more, or anything like that? Or would you leave that to the big boss?
Great question. Tough question. Because it involves both, right? Is it they couldn't or they wouldn't?
I'm saying.
Yeah. So you're talking about working, and so we want to discern if they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's from a physical standpoint, that they couldn't get up to them because maybe they're knackered from what they had done before.
Yeah.
And then if it's a wouldn't, then I think that's where we go in more to the tactical side, and we may bring it up like, hey, look, I don't know why he's playing so far off, or I don't know why he's not getting back. I don't know why, from his physical numbers, he wasn't knackered there. His 3 minutes before that wasn't full of anything. So more of that's on you, coaches, to get them back into position or to work on it on the training pitch. Versus, you got a meters per minute of 200 for the 2 minutes before that. Was 7 sprints and all these other metrics that maybe you're not so interested in. And he's knackered, so he couldn't. And then that's something we have to work on. Or it was just a hard period and he couldn't do it. So I think that's how it kind of falls.
Makes sense.
If you don't mind, what does a typical week look like for you in terms of your analysis of opposition and how much work you put into the preparation of your team?
So 2 days after a match, myself, the head of psychology, assistant manager, and our head analyst, and Arsene meet, and we go over, we have a few things, analytics. One is called the story of the game that we've created. So it matches the physical and the tactical dominating of possession and chances creation to see some linked. And Arsenal in the Premier League, and physical isn't always linked, because if we have the ball, for us, we're making you run your bollocks off. Yeah. So if we have possession, you'd think we're dominating the game, but physically they're dominating the game, just from a physical, because they're outrunning us. So we do that kind of meeting 2 days after the match. And then in that meeting, we'll review what happened. And then our analyst also brings in the things that we need to think about going into the next game, our next opponent, what we're going to focus on, how are they physically, in relative terms, what's their match build up to us, because I think that plays a big role. And who do they play after us? That's also a thought. How many days in between do we got? Is it one less than them, two? Because our weeks are always varied when we play. Then that puts us into where we build our pre-match talk, and that happens match day -1 before we train. So we all go into our theater, and we watch video. Players have an opportunity to talk, and that we've done tactical stuff that we've filmed during the week, and we put that into the pre-match video. Hey, when we're working on that, this is why, and so forth. And then the day of the match, there'll be a video where we announce the team, and we go over the highlight points of what we want to do in that game, and then we play. So that's usually how it works. When we have 2 days in between, obviously everything just goes. Match day +2 becomes the next day, and match day -1 is the next day. So everything just gets crammed in, and you just focus on kind of the next game.
Supplements. Have you got a control factor on the actual supplements, what you use? And what you allow not to use or what not to use? Or?
Yeah, of course, all the guidelines, all of our supplements have to be batch tested from and our nutritionists run that. So definitely a question for him. But overall, supplements should be exactly what they are, supplements. And we go for good, healthy, well-prepared, quality food first. And we have an opportunity to feed breakfast and lunch. So we can, 2/3 of their meals we can control, along with their recovery stuff. So then we have
So it's basically set on the recovery sense of what you
recovery, body weight, their nutritional goal. We have some lean mass gainers, as I've told you. We have some fat losers. We have some guys that are great, that just need to fuel and train and recover.
So if we have a player that actually is falling into a sense of spasms, of cramps and so on, you actually add a supplement to actually make him to work better to recover in that sense, or do you just work on his body as a physical sense, or as a physiotherapy?
I think we try to do both. I think from the physical side, one is to try to discern why that happened. Like also a system cramp where both calves are cramping versus one hamstring or one calf. You might look at that in different. One could be a mechanical load issue, whereas when you have both kind of in a similar place, you would think more of a system standpoint, like systemic. But most of our cramps that we have, generally speaking, happen because of environmental changes that you don't account for. So we played at Watford and we had a couple of guys cramp, and it just so happened on that day, it wasn't particularly hot, but the humidity was 85%. So it just, and in England it can,
Change.
temperature's pretty stable, but the humidity can fluctuate. And all of a sudden players are like a lot more water loss, they can't get cool, and then midway through the second half you have a couple guys cramping. So then we try to discern, was it that, look at the workloads, and then we may add in training the next week to let them try it for their belly. If we try a different supplement, whether it's potassium or calcium or quinine or these types of things, and see if they tolerate it. And if they do, the next game we'll probably do it anyway, because obviously it won't hurt them. It may help. So that's where we're at.
Shad, I'm sorry to bring this up, but during the second half of the season, you mentioned how the media were on your case, like your team's case. Did you guys address it? And if not, how did you sort of get the players through it?
I brought my colleague Alex Wicks here, and he's a professional and talking about the media. Sorry, Alex, I wish I could throw you under the bus, but it was difficult. Of course, you're inside of it, so you know that there's a lot of good things still happening, and you're doing a lot of good things, and you're trying to stick to your principles. We had a great start of the year. We went 20 games unbeaten in the start of the game. We won 10 of our last 11 games. Unfortunately, the loss was to them. But and then we had a stinker in the middle. And why does that happen? Generally, Arsenal in history, way before me even, I think even before Arsene, it was November. November was always a horrible month. But that didn't happen this year, so we didn't have the November blues or anything. There was a period that I think people forget. I remember because I knew this is gonna hurt. There was a week when we played two of our top 7, if you put Everton in the 7, 2 of our top 7 rivals away. So we were at Everton, we were at City. And we were 1-0 up in both of those games, and we lost both those games. Our relative opponents during that period got 30 points. They got each of those teams got 6, and we got 0. And so I think that was the week that we, you like to think Watford at home, that type of stuff. But I think when your rivals get 6 points on you in a week and you get 0, that's tough. But I think to answer your question, we just kind of stick to our principles and keep going. The manager's fantastic. He knows that it's not, that we're all doing the best we can. And, we work with a bunch of 18 to 35-year-old millionaires. That's life. And some days they don't show up,
As you mentioned.
Well, I think there's a part, but there's also, there's things we talk about. We talk about hunger. What's your hunger? When did you sign your last contract? Do you want to leave? Do you want to stay? Is there another club tapping you up? Are you back from injury? So all these things affect your hunger. Who's our opponent? And all those things. And I think we hit a little patch there where we've lost it. We lost a bit of hunger for all those reasons individually across the board. And now, that's our fault. You know, somehow we have to do our best to keep them hungry. But I would challenge you as coaches to look at that, to look at those things as far as keeping your athletes at that time of the year and this and who you're playing. But look at, is he hungry? Because it may be time to change somebody out if he's not. So.
How much influence do you have with Arsene over players that get overused, like Alexi, for example?
We have the same influence for Alexi as any other player. You know, we give him the physical and mental feedback to try to help him make the best decision he can. A prime example of that is, did everybody watch the FA Cup final?
Yeah.
Do you remember who our goalkeeper was?
Ospina.
Yeah. So I think there's 36 million Arsenal fans registered around the world, something like that.
Yeah.
I think if you took a poll, I don't think one would have started Ospina in goal.
No.
Not one. And none of the performance or the assistant coaches would have started him either. But that's, he had tailored off physically, he wasn't ready. I remember talking to Arsene after the game and just like, hey, what a call. And I even said that thing. I think 36 million people disagree with you. But he goes, I know, he's just quicker off his line. But that just kind of sums it up, doesn't it? I mean, that's why he's where he is, and I'm over there. Yeah, but he's not quite powerful, and he's like not motivated. Just quicker off his line. And 2 times he made big saves against Costa. That maybe Czech doesn't make. I don't know. We'll never know. So. Anyway, I have about 20-some minutes. I'll take one more. Yeah, go ahead. We'll have time afterwards, please.
I've heard Arsene talk about the red zone. Do you have a influence over that? Say when players' training loads are exceptionally heavy and they need a break?
I don't know where he got the red zone from.
Might have been a couple of years
ago. No, you're right. I think it's since I've been there. I don't think I said red zone, but he got it from somewhere. I think that just matters is we have a thing called minute density, right? So we keep track of minutes in a week, we keep track of minutes in 2 weeks, we keep track of minutes in a month. So what we like to see is that people in a month, they've played a lot. So they're kind of red for a month. In 14 days, they can be red or kind of yellow. And then here they're yellow. That means you have a player that's quite robust and they're quite ready to go. What happens is when they have some yellow in the month, but then all of a sudden you're magenta over here because they played 3 in a week. That's a risk player because they're chronically, you guys all know that chronic acute type stuff, but really they haven't been exposed to that before and now they are. So that's what chronic and acute means, right? It's a fancy way to say do what you need to do and be constant with it. Well, from a match standpoint, they haven't been exposed to it and now they are. And for whatever reason, we had an injury, we had a red card, we had, for whatever reason, we'd like to not go into that zone. Vice versa, the Sanchez's of the world, that somebody brought up, he's just red across the board because he plays every game, right? So he's, in a way, he could be tired, but he's not really risky. He's not really a risk for any issues. He's just tired. He might be tired, might underperform. So I think that's where the red came from that, but like we never called it the red zone. It does have a signal light kind of flash, but just to give you. All right, so should we crack on with return to play, a little bit more specific stuff? Again, the whole idea of this one is just to try to give you an idea of how we utilize that performance continuum. So we'll just jump right into it. So when an athlete has an issue, and you could even think when athletes come back from preseason, we kind of go through the same kind of thing, besides we take the injury part out of it. So the questions are that you have, when are they going to be ready to run? Everyone in here realizes we play a running sport. So the first step is they have to run to be able to go to the sport. Then when are they going to be able to train? And then, of course, how do we get them back into play? So those are the kind of the questions that we want to try to answer and create gates, so to speak, and how to get them back to these these questions are answered. So starting in preseason, we do quite a big battery of testing from the biomechanical, physical side. You see it on the pictures there, a Nord board score for posterior chain strength. You see a hamstring squeeze because we don't do Nord board the day after a match, but we do a little squeeze cuff to see where their hamstrings are after games. You see a sit and reach and obviously a DEXA scan for their body fat. So the one big one is we have those preseason norms, and we want those athletes to get at least back to those preseason norms and those things before we start them running. So just like we'd want them when they come back into preseason. The next one, and this has a couple videos with it, so I'll just play it and maybe talk a little bit, but little Mumford and Sons radio. So these are just a couple examples. Power, knee dominant, and posterior chain hip dominant movements that we look at. We have our markers, from when they got injured or when they had from last season, and of course we want those guys and those players to hit those markers. Maybe the myth of footballers don't do any leg strength, in Arsenal that's not true. So again, we put a 90%. When they've hit their 90% of their strength that they had before, then we can start to progress them into actual running. Now that doesn't mean that we're not doing anything else. So during that time, we'd be definitely in the pool running. We'd also be looking at single leg, especially if it's a lower limb injury. Of course, we'd be looking at how their dynamics are in landing and jumping on one leg, because that's the sport. We play on one leg unless you're a keeper. And then we get them moving in the pool as soon as we can. We don't need to wait until they're 90% strength. We can do all movement patterns and stuff in the pool. And we're very blessed that we have a pool that raises and lowers the floor. So we can start them here moving, and then we can take the water down to where here, and then we're probably ready to progress down to an Alter G. So then what happens, you got them to 90% running, and they started running. Maybe we utilized their Alter G for the first couple to get them up to 90% weight bearing on there. And then you say, yeah, they're ready to run. We've done some linear curving, some multiple cuts with and without the ball. And then we try to integrate them into training. So this video here, it'll rerun it. You have a group. This is kind of our preseason, some of our preseason stuff. So you have a ball drill that's quite simple, a couple actions. They play the ball, they run. So it's a running drill disguised with the ball, which everybody loves. Yeah. And then you have a group that's actually just getting some speed intensity on the side. So we would actually, as soon as we can, and as soon as they were tolerant, of course, if you have an MCL or a rec fem type injury, the ball work is going to be a bit delayed, because touching the ball with an MCL or a rec fem is one of the last things you have to kind of check off. But when we can, we try to get them into ball work that's controlled, and we try to get their linear running up to speed. And then we just take into, with the football, we take in just your normal progressions, right? Your slow to fast, your single to multiple actions, your pre-programmed to random, chaotic, reactive, simple to complex. And one big thing is we never look to increase one variable or two variables at once. We either go up in a little bit of volume or we go up in intensity, but we don't do both, one session to the next. So it could be intensity, then volume, intensity, then volume. Or looking at the athlete profile and see what that athlete needs. I'll run these videos a little bit. So up top, you would have a very simple drill, right? It's quite slow, dribbling with the ball, playing. And the actions are very pre-programmed and easy. Down below, when I click on this one, this would be more when I'm talking simple to complex. So I'm going to let this one run for a little while, because actually our big fella, the big German that played last night, he's third to go through this. And people that think he's slow, watch this. So this isn't him, he's next. But all the other guys do quite well. Also, this is Monreal. And then watch the big guy. Every touch is just clean. And he's out. So that's where I'm saying that we design simple things also for their position. You see in him, he's like this in the same body position as a center half that he would be, and the other two are defenders as well. So we've designed that drill to be simple to complex, integrating the ball, and then specific moves that they have to do. And of course, rest to work ratios. We do all of these kind of drills throughout preseason. We monitor their heart rates, their actions, their intensity of it. So when they have an injury, if we come back to these drills, we can just look and see where they are. And that lets us know that, okay, now it's time. They're in the same place they were in preseason. Let's start integrating them into football. Quick little monitoring thing that we do is a simple Excel sheet. You know, we have probably some bigger high-powered databases, but player X, he has his match metrics across the board. So anytime he hits above 80% in any of those metrics, it flags red. Anytime 70 to 80, yellow, and then 50 to 70 is green, and then otherwise it just stays blue. So we get an idea just from the kind of a light system how intense or where we've hit their intensity metrics. I'll show you an update of this. Up top is a step balance, so it's something we get. Again, we're blessed with technology that we get the difference right and left, and so we monitor their step balance. All of our athletes generally don't. They always have a little discrepancy, but you'll see over 10%, 15% when you start going out there, and you'd like that to come down between, below 5% when we're looking at getting them to move and integrating them into training. So then what do you do? What do you do with them once you start integrating them in? And the obvious choice is obviously controlled things, passing. And when you start playing, you want them to play possession, but you want them to play as a neutral first. So you want them to not have any contact with anybody. You want them to be free to turn, but to be in that big space or small space, to be under a bit of pressure, but also do all those football type movements. So either in a big possession game, they can play as a neutral. And then you progress them, right? You progress them from small-sided games, 10v10, then you're at 7s, 6s, 5s, and then probably the end stage, can they tolerate, 1v1s and 2v2s? So down here is just a 1v1 drill, simple, 2 small goals, and just can they go for 10 seconds, repeats, in that intensity, in that environment. And then they're okay, they've come in and out of neutral, they've done some individual stuff, small-sided, 1v1s, 2v2s, then we start getting them back into full training. Generally speaking, if they're in season, maybe the training session isn't exactly what they need, but it's far better than doing something with a fitness coach on the side of the pitch because there's players. But that's where we believe in, if they're not going to be in the game, we top them up. So then we'll take them to the side, we'll do some specific stuff maybe with the ball, but maybe that goal of the training day is high-speed running for him. But our session, for the players that are playing the games, it's basically a few ticks less. So we take them aside, we get that blocker running in. And we try to do that when we can, looking at the most common runs they make in the intense situations in their games. So if you're a box-to-box midfielder, maybe you played a ball in, you've lost the ball, so you got to close down the ball, up, you miss it, it's played out to the wing, and it goes up, and they're transitioning, and you have to get back to your box. Those types of patterns that we try to build for each position to get them back into it when we top them up, rather than just, let's get on the side of the pitch and run. It's still running, it's disguised running, it's still the same thing, but it has context, which I think sometimes we lack. And these are just a few of you see the guys to the side running, and then you see this top drill over here is a few players that we needed a little bit more speed intensity, so we made the pitch bigger, and then we play the ball into space, and they have to run onto it to try to get those high-speed meters. And then we have a group getting some high-speed meters without the ball. Again, important on the volume and intensity that you're only doing one variable, and you look at that 10% kind of as a decent marker for both to increase. Down below is another one, just wanted to give you a few more examples of kind of the simple to complex things, specific movements that we might do if we needed to top up in XL decels. So maybe it wasn't a high-speed running, but maybe the session was tight work, and we didn't do quite enough for a guy coming back from rehab, so we put him in a situation where he's got to start-stop in small spaces with the ball. So I told you we'd be coming back to that sheet again. So you're seeing how it's flowing down. You start to see more red boxes. Yeah, more red boxes and more categories filling up. And hopefully that gives us, you know, that we've hit. You see the step balance is coming back down. It's the same slide, same picture, but you'd like to see it coming back down. And then you can say, all right, now they're ready to run. They've ready to train. They've trained. Now they're ready to play. So for our first team players, you know, we try to do our best. This is just a little bit of video, but we always try to put them into a 23s game or a reserve game. International break, sometimes we'll have a team show up, and the guys that are non-internationals will play with the injured players against a team, or not the injured players, the players returning to fitness. But I'll just let this video play. That's Thomas Rosicky, 34 years old. So he's in the 23 game, you know, with the kids. How's it go? Danny Welbeck. The last one here, our team captain at the time, Mikel Arteta. So just trying to show that we try to walk the walk too, you know. So we have our 32-year-old captain as well with the 23 game. Almost scores. And yeah, we get those minutes in. Hopefully, you know, it's 45 to 60 in our first exposure. And then we can make the judgment, you know, how was that? We look at the numbers, we can say, oh, they're 90% of their best, or maybe they're not, but we watch the game, maybe it's a 23 game that wasn't quite intense. If we play 23s and it's like Man City in the 23s and we play in the Emirates, then the game's quite intense. But sometimes if you play, this is like, I think Leicester maybe, or Blackburn or somebody, and maybe the game wasn't that intense, then maybe we try to pitch another one, or all is well, maybe we make them available for the bench, you know, depending on the team that we're going to play that's coming. And so this is summarizing because we got a few more minutes here. So just we establish those norms, less to more, slow to fast, simple to complex, as you guys all know. And then we look at match values and we try to get them in the best situation. I just have a couple videos of guys that have returned to play. It always isn't fancy, it always isn't perfect. But here's a couple that kind of went through this routine. This is a video of Aaron Ramsey. He'll get highlighted. This is his first game back against Aston Villa. So just he makes the tackle here.
Kein Foul. Gay fair vom Ball getrennt. Walcott. Super Ball. Jetzt sind sie 3 gegen 1. Özil kann es alleine machen. Ramsey 2-0.
And that was his first game back. And of course these are, I'm only going to show you the videos of the optimal ones because you want, this is what you hope happens. You know, that they're able to do what they do because we prepared them to do it. And then Danny Welbeck, last minute against Leicester City. This is his first game back. And he wins the game. Again, these are, but they went through the process, and we had great results with them coming back into play. And last one, I have to show our FA Cup celebration a little bit. And just wanted to thank all my colleagues at Arsenal, and I wanted to thank the host for having me here at Arsenal. Executive team for the invitation, and thank you guys for listening. And we have, I think, 10 or so minutes for questions.
So obviously a lot of what we hear is obviously through the media. I remember going to a previous coaching conference and they spoke specifically about Wenger with his use of Prozone at both the home ground and the training ground. And his main focus was mostly on distance covered. This presentation seems to suggest that's at least not completely true. The other thing that we hear a lot about is Wenger's preference for short training periods, like 6-minute blocks. Is that accurate and true, or is that misrepresentation? And also, if it is correct, why small blocks of 6 minutes?
On the first one, I think there's always going to be an emphasis on distance, but I think it's important to give context, like today. So the way that we look at it is, and again, we are super blessed with technology and super blessed with data and all those things that we didn't have 2 years ago, let alone 5 to 10 to 20 when he started. So we look at possession and then we look at total distance. So if you possess the ball more than 55%, which Arsenal does against most teams in the Premier League, they will you will have less distance. We will. So you then have to analyze your games like that. So when you're coming in the next day, you're going to go, okay, we played a team. So most often we're going to have, because we're not going to have that much possession marker against the top teams. It'll be more even. Then comes in as a fancy one, I don't know if you have it down here, but there's ball in play time. So not every game is simply the same. So ball in play, Arsenal averages 60 minutes ball in play. Played up in Liverpool, everyone, under Klopp, they're the most physical, best team around, right? They're very good. We had one of our worst performances up there, but so did they. And the ball was in play 53 minutes. But you take 7 minutes times 10 field players, there's a lot of meters that they're just standing there. So it's really important to put, you can't just go, oh, rubbish, we got less fit in a week. No, it didn't happen, it's not possible. Yeah. So you have to give it context. The third thing that you look at is how much distance you cover when the opponent has the ball, and how much distance do you cover when you have the ball. So how much you close them down, or how much are you transitioning and putting them under pressure. Because if you don't have any context that I just gave you, there's no way really to improve it. Because then you just go, we're bad, okay, let's start training distance. And everyone in this room, I think, knows that's not the answer, And so you have to give it context. Those are the 3 things that we kind of look at in context. So we want distance, but we want to be equal or more in when we're defending. We want to get around the pitch and close down our opponent and win the ball. And of course, when we have the ball, we want to attack our opponents. So we want to see both of those. And we look at those both from a standpoint of sprinting as well as total distance. Because those are the 2 things, when analyzed, correlate to wins. So when we struggle, we get outran without the ball. And that's just clear. So that's where we put context into it. The blocks of the small blocks.
6 minute
Yeah. I think Raymond Verheyen is a massive name down in these parts. So I think it's correct. We want more actions per minute. That's what we want. So if you're playing 5-a-side, the games are going to be smaller time. If you're playing 10v10, maybe it's a 6-minute block, but it's all about pressing from the front, or it's all about defending from the back. And can you do that with sustained pressure for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, building up to 6 minutes? It's not all 6 minutes, I'll say that. I think his favorite number is 10, actually. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I just got a question.
He was first back then, sorry.
Could you outline the structure of your football department and how the parts relate to each other or not?
So there's Arsene and then all of us. No. So I think that's the way it used to be. Now we have Arsene is the chief master commander of the technical side and tactical side. I also have a direct line to him if I want to talk to him about things, of course. But now we have Darren there as well. So Darren sits there with Arsene, with our analysts, with our sports psych, with our medical and our performance wings. So when we have coaches meetings, it's Darren, myself, and the technical tactical staff reporting in, as well as me linking with our academy performance. Darren as well as over the academy performance. So that's kind of the structure. So the technical tactical side reports up to analyst, assistant manager, up to Arsene, and then from the performance medical analytical side through Darren to Arsene. That's kind of the structure.
Do you have any overlap in terms of roles, or?
I think we all do. I'm some days I'm a great towel picker upper. I'm fantastic. Gel distributor. And then I'm allowed to give some input on tactics. On some things that I've seen or drills we've used in the past, maybe with Germany or in other jobs. And so there's definitely an openness when we're all in that room to just speak your mind, because everyone, I think, considered have experience enough.
Shad, without naming names, across the 3 environments that you've worked with, agitators or disruptors within that don't buy into the culture. There's a theory in a great book out now called No Dickheads Allowed. How do you deal with someone who doesn't buy into the culture, but might be a $1 million plus player and a great player? So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's the thing with Arsenal too, is we have academy kids that come up and they're on a pathway that we help set forth and they arrive here. But then we go buy a Brazilian. Arsenal culture, values, they don't have a nice contract, great club, they're okay. So you have to be a bit flexible. I think that the problem arises if they don't buy in and they're kind of doing their own thing, you're trying to guide them, you're trying to educate them. But as long as they don't bring the others with them, then it's not really a problem. I think we operate very optimally, and I think we have about 95% compliance. And I don't know of too many clubs that operate where you have 30 players and 2 are doing their own thing and 28 are following the crowd. As long as those 2 aren't trying to disrupt everything and ruin everything, then I don't think you really have to do much. When they start to, then I think you go through your processes. At Arsenal, we have a team captain, as long as he's not one of the disruptors, which you can imagine the big German isn't. So we have our team captain, and then of course we have our manager, or it could be that person's friend from a language standpoint. So a French player, go to another French player or someone he respects and try to do it that way. And of course we mention it to them, but look, you never win that fight. Get in the weight room. Nah. They don't fire players. they fire coaches because the players are too hard to replace. So hopefully your education and the whole team, when they show up and do something, that they're like, oh, okay, maybe I better do that. So. One more question or 2 more, and then we probably have to get going. You were next,
just the football philosophy. We hear here that a lot of it's Arsene Wenger's way, so-called, but is Arsene Wenger's involvement in the actual philosophy of football that it's played at Arsenal, or is it the philosophy of football that's actually in general, or do you all have the input for the actual football, that what Arsenal actually plays in a orientated, ball controlled movement of bodies on the field of play?
It's dictated from the manager, from the club. I think a lot of people forget that Arsenal under Arsene was a massive, attractive brand of football in the late 90s when he arrived, and in the 2000s before Barcelona. So I think Barcelona had a way too, but they weren't near as the tiki-taki and whatever. And I think at some point, hey, we want to kind of play like that. And they started doing that better. But I think a lot of people forget that. They think Barcelona was doing that since the dawn of time, and that's not the truth. Arsenal really had that brand, I would say. And that's from me being a neutral too. I'm 3 years at the club. I wasn't there then. So I think it's definitely from the manager, and just those values of like we did with the workshop I told you about with the team yesterday.
Yeah.
And part of that is freedom. Aaron Ramsey, I don't know if you watch some of our games, if you're an Arsenal fan or whatever, you don't know what position he's playing. But when he pops up and scores the winning goal in the FA Cup, you're really happy that we have a free-flowing way to play that he can use what he's good for. And that's what it's all about, right? 3-back system hides a bit of our weaknesses, I won't tell you what those are, but also enhances some of our strengths. And that's, maybe we should have switched to it earlier, I don't know, that's up to the managers and whatnot, but we have to play to our strengths and put players in positions and allow them the freedom to score goals for us and win games. And that's what I think the manager's philosophy is. That it looks nice too is an absolute bonus. So.
What were the values that Arsene put up on the flip chart?
It was the club values, which is what is it? Be together, respect, and move forward. And those are, I think, it's respect, move forward.
Be together, always move forward, and act with class.
Act with class.
Three values.
Act with class.
Do things in the right way.
On those values, when you had a slump mid-season, how do you go back to them? Are they the constant message? What would ways that you would make sure that players are getting back to that message?
Yeah, in team meetings, I think that the team, in time of of that time, there's a big divisiveness that can happen in your team, and it was just, you know, that be together. So we tried to institute things where the team would be together, not forcibly, but, you know, setting them in environments where they ended up all being there, whether it be gym activation sessions so you just want to do more of that. Whereas sometimes maybe a recovery session, they can come in and crack on with a recovery individual. Maybe everyone's in the pool this time. So kind of going back to those values and just putting them in the same room so they can talk, they can vent, they can be frustrated, because everyone's frustrated, you know. That's the common. But there really is not a ton of places where they can let it out. And so I was trying to build some of those during that time, when maybe we'd be doing some individual type things, to just put it all together. Even one group inside, one outside for recovery days, maybe get them all outside on the pitch to start. So and that goes back to the club values. Last one.
You talked about hunger, and the challenge with the multi-million-dollar players. Is there anything apart from obvious performance on the field that you guys have used to maybe detect when a player's just not interested?
Yeah, some of those things, I mean, some of the things I've said, I am actually, I hope someday I will publish the hunger index. And I will, but I'm working on it, and even Arsene knows and is really appreciative of some of the feedback I've been giving him on it. But yeah, some of the things to look at is when they sign their new contract. So, I mean, just anecdotally, we don't even have to, right? We don't even have to go to science. Do you think a player is more hungry before or after? Yeah, you know, so they're playing for a contract. So they're freaking massively. So in their second year, and they're playing for a new one. So that contract, I think, is massive.
Is there any ways that you sort of try and address it? Like when you sort of see those, I know it's not.
I don't necessarily know if you can address it, but I think you need to be aware of it.
Yeah.
In the injury pathway, is it their first game back? Who is it against? Is it Stoke away? Are we playing Chelsea? Is it a Champions League game? I think that plays massively in your selection of a team of who will be hungry and who won't be. So if you're looking at these players are equal, and you're looking at them, probably doesn't fancy that. Okay, we'll go with that one. Those are there's a few of those kind of things that we've looked at. Minute density, as you said. You know, if a guy is just magenta and tired, so that's from a physical standpoint. So I think all of those you can put together and get a pretty good idea who fancies it in that moment. And I think if you put all those kind of factors together, there's a lot of them that attribute to our 2 months that were poor, in my opinion. Again, there's no science on it yet, but yeah. So hopefully someday. So really an honor for me to be here with you guys. I hope it's got some benefits from it and it was good for you. And thank you so much.